Hi everyone, Lukas from lgmphotography.co.uk, and in this video I'm going to give you my review and opinion about the Sigma 35mm f1.4. Now, if you would have seen my previous video, I was doing a comparison of the 28mm Nikon f1.8G and the 35mm f1.4 Sigma. And obviously, because I don't have the Nikon 28mm, it was impossible for me to do proper optical test it on the field, see how we perform against each other. But looking online, both of lenses have excellent review optically. The 35mm Sigma had the edge if you look at DxO marks. So really optically, both of them were excellent. And my conclusion between these two lenses was to pretty much kind of find out which focal length is best for you. Is 28mm something you're going to use more than a 35, or 35 the other way? And this should really be the thing to look at. Now, obviously, I've had the 35mm for not so long, but I've used it quite a lot already. I had a couple of weddings. I've also had a couple of family photo shoots with it, and it was one of my must-use lenses during the weddings. And the reason for that is because what I really liked about this lens, it did fit me very well, because 35mm to me is a very good focal length for portraits. I like to use 35mm because it gives you this kind of, I wouldn't say distortion, but it gives you the opposite, like a 200mm with that compression. So what you do is you can probably focus up to here and get everything out of focus in the background. So it does give you that specific 35mm, which I really like. And this was one of my main reasons why I went for this lens. The other reason was obviously the what I've heard about it, about the optics and everything. So now, if I start with the ergonomic of this lens, it's quite a heavy lens. You know, you can really feel the weight and you can feel how solid it is. It comes with a lens hood which fits very well, and it's really robust. It won't just go off if you kind of bang it around, and I did quite a few times, unfortunately. The way it's been built, I believe it's plastic. It is plastic, but the focus rings, I'm not actually sure of what it is. I should have probably looked into it, but again, this is not, as I say, this is not kind of a scientific review I'm doing. Is really kind of hands-on and what I feel about it. When you use it, it feels really well made. It has this beautiful finish and it looks really modern for a lens, especially coming from Sigma, which hasn't been the best well-designed lens, you know, ever made. Nikon always at the edge, or Canon, but this one really kind of stand out from any Sigma that I've seen before or I've owned before. So yeah, ergonomic and quality of construction is astonishing, really is. It has obviously a metal ring at the back. It has some kind of 0, 1, 2 number here, 12, and this is possibly when you plug the USB adapter that you will use it. The cap is a very thick cap, and it has the same as the Nikon, so you got a 2 thing inside, which kind of just fit in pretty easily. The back cap here, I don't have the Sigma on it. I've got a Nikon at the moment, but again, it looked pretty good. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Size-wise, it's about as big as the 85mm. I'm shooting on it at the moment, so I can't really show you, but I'll put a few pictures there so you can see the comparison of size from this to the 85. I'll put also one next to the 24-70, which is quite a commonly used lens, so you can give you an idea of the size of the lens. When I first saw it, I was quite surprised. I actually thought that it was going to be bigger than this. For 1.4, it looks pretty compact, but again, really well built. Optically at the front, well, it looks okay. Now, when I was using this lens, I'm going to give you obviously the positive first. Positive is, I think the quality of the optics is probably what makes this lens. When I shoot with my 24-70 or my 70-200 or my 60 macro, any really high-end lens, I get obviously that beautiful quality, superb sharpness, and this is way up there with those lenses. Sharpness is excellent from the center to the edge. It's really sharp lens. Really, you know, you can compare it to pretty much any high-end Nikon, and you won't see any difference. It's even probably sharper than the other ones I have. But the colors I really liked about this lens. Any Sigma I had, and I've got a Sigma 1.4 85 millimeter, which I'm shooting on at the moment, that video. And the 85 1.4 or the 70-200 that I used to have, always used to have that kind of a bit softness about the, it's a very sharp lens, but a bit soft, and you get that green cast as well. It does have a very specific color to it. And I know lots of people don't like it about Sigma. I personally don't mind as long as I get what I want. Like for example, the 85, I love the bokeh you get, I love the sharpness of the lens. Yeah, okay, the color correction, color rendering is not as good, and you do get quite a lot of chromatic aberration. But this one has none of that. This one optically is, I wouldn't say it's perfect. I don't know if it exists, a perfect lens, but it's just amazing. The color reproduction you get from this lens are right up there. It's nothing like I've never seen on a Sigma lens. It really kind of stands out from any other Sigma I've seen in regard to this kind of color we used to get. In regard to sharpness, again, it's really sharp lens. And what I really like, obviously, is when you use it in low light, like at the reception of a wedding, 35mm is wide enough to get quite a lot in the frame. And being able to use it at 1.4, you can obviously use your ISO much lower, drop your ISO, which is nice. So it gives you, you know, I was able to use this at ISO between 800 and 1200, when with a 2.8 I probably look 3.2. So, you know, it makes a big difference. I know that these days ISO performance is not too much of an issue because bodies that are made today, like the Nikon D800 or the Canon 5D Mark III or the D600, have amazing ISO that can be pushed to, I don't know, ISO 10,000, and with pretty much a few Photoshop fix, you'll be able to get a very nice and clear image. So it's not too much of an issue, but the thing is that when you use your ISO, especially with the D800, I know that the dynamic range is better at lower ISO than a higher ISO. So that's something that is to take in consideration. Obviously, when you use it 1.4, despite being quite wide as 35mm, you will get a quite shallow depth of field, and you'll be surprised on how shallow, even at the 35mm. Obviously, it's not an 85 where you have about this to play with on a focus, and if you get it wrong by centimeters, it's completely out of focus. But it's something to take in consideration that 1.4, you need to focus right. And this brings me to my negative point about this lens. I've used it to wedding heavily. I mean, I think I've taken about 500 to 600 pictures per wedding with that lens. So it was between this one and the 70-200. These were my two must-use lenses during the wedding. And I've got to say, the focus, I wasn't too keen on it. My 85, for example, focus super quick, very accurate, very precise, and it locked there. Bang, you go from one point to another, it just focus, it is amazing focus. But that one, I've got to say, I wasn't too impressed with it. And lots of time it just didn't want to lock. And the problem you have with the focus system on this is that you do not have, like the Nikon, for example, an autofocus, manual focus at once. So you can override the focus as you're autofocusing. So if you autofocus, the thing goes up and down, it can find it. You just put your hands on the ring and focus manually, which is great for macro work, for example. On this one, you don't have this option. So when, and it happens quite a lot actually in not such a low light, but when I was shooting at 1.4 and the light was average, sometimes the lens just couldn't find a focus point. And the only way, and because I'm so used to use this override, I kind of got caught a bit, and I had to then go onto manual focus and then auto manually focus. That can't actually be an issue because obviously if you're shooting at people and you're trying to get that close shoot, you know, to get a nice depth of field, well, that could come in the way. So yeah, obviously the positive point about this lens is the optics. I mean, the optics, I will be very keen to see a video of someone having the Nikon 35-1.4 and against this one and see the comparison. To me, for the price you pay for this lens, there is no reason to buy the Nikon. No reason whatsoever. If quality is your absolute, you know, priority, I don't think you can get any better than the Sigma. And I know that some people have their own views about Sigmas, and yes, and I've got to agree, you know, Sigma hasn't been the best quality lens. It hasn't made you know, the best optics, you know, in the world, and Nikon and Canon has always been at the top. But I beg you to try this lens, borrow it, test it, get a friend who maybe has it, you know, buy it, test it for a day and send it back. I'm sure that someone will buy it, you know, just send it back, say sorry. It's, you know, you can probably get away, but I can bet you that if you start shooting with this lens, you will keep this lens. And it doesn't matter your level, as long as you have the money to buy this lens, it shouldn't be anything to stop you. If you wanted to buy the Nikon or Canon version, you'd have to spend double the price, even more, to get it. And I don't understand why people will actually go down this route and get this. Obviously, the weather sealing is not there. Obviously, if you are, you know, a rally sport photographer, yeah, absolutely don't buy this lens because you end up with, you know, it will be a nightmare. But if you're a wedding photographer, an event photographer, a portrait photographer, anything that doesn't require high weather sealing, this is the lens for you. It is just astonishing quality, and I'm going to show you some videos now, some pictures I've taken with it. I try to put it, please watch it in 1080p so you can see the best the quality possible. I understand that obviously the video will compress it and you might not be able to see the real quality. I will do a written review which will give much more details, much more comparison on the picture, showing you how sharp and all this. I'll put the link down below once it's done, so if you probably watch it when I've just made it, it won't be available, but I'll make it in the next few months. And yeah, I'll make also a little video just try to show you the depth of field with it. I think it's quite interesting to see how close you can get. And apart from this, that's pretty much all I've got to say about this lens. So if you have any questions, please let me know down below. And yeah, this is an absolute winner. So if you don't like Sigma, well, you've got to try this one because that's the new Sigma. That is not the old Sigma. Cheers. See ya. Right, okay, so what I've done here is I've put the 35 Sigma 1.4 on the D800 and it's just ready to show you a few videos with it. Now I'm just shooting in manual here, and what I'm going to be doing is playing with the aperture, the speed, just to show you kind of what you can get. I am handheld and I'm not really good at it, so I apologize in advance for the a bit shaky video. So as you can see, I'm shooting at ISO 100. It's going to be ISO 100 for the whole way, 1080p 30 frames per second, and I'm 1/60th of a second at f14 just to get a bit of blue on the sky here and get the horizon. So what I'll do is I'll go back down here. Okay, so I'll go back down here. So what I really want to show you is what 1.4 looks like. So here I'm at f8, so you can obviously get a very distinct background on. You can figure out that it's obviously some kind of right, you can figure out now. So let's go down to 5.6. Okay, 5.6. I'm still at 1/60th of a second. That's probably a better exposure here. So let's go down again. So let's go for f4. I'm going to increase my speed a bit. So I'm 100th of a second. Unfortunately, I don't have an ultra density filter to put on this. I believe it takes 67mm lens, and all my other lenses are, apart from the macro lens I have, are 77 or 72, one or the other. Anyway, so let's go down. Let's keep going down. So 2.8, increase the speed, so you start getting this beautiful blurry background. We're still quite a long way from the 1.4. So let's go f.2. Bit of focus again. So you can see there's a very shallow depth of field here. I'm about, I would say, 30 centimeters from the grass I'm focusing on now. And let's go down to 1.4. There we go, 1.4, 1/500 of a second. And look at this beautiful background. I mean, you can a bit figure out why it is. You know, you can see from the grass, the context, that it's kind of like a valley or a little dune or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, and so yes, I don't know if from the video you can see the quality of the bokeh and the sharpness of what I'm focusing on, but from the back of my screen here, it looks just incredible. It really looks beautiful. I'm only focusing on that little grass thing here, and you can obviously see how shallow the depth of field is. So again, you know, something to take in consideration, but yeah, it's really nice. Let me show you. There's a little flower here. Maybe I can. No, it's okay. So, okay, so you can see. So you can clearly see that the bokeh is super soft, very smooth and just beautiful. You know, you can see the grass kind of fading. It's a beautiful lens. It really is. You know, the quality you're getting from it is just so good. And you know what I'm getting at the back of my screen is, I know this is what I'm gonna get, you know, on a big screen when I'm back in the studio. It's just a beautiful lens. I don't understand why people will try to go for Nikon or Canon when you can get this for half the price. There is just no reason. Obviously, as I said, the focus and the weather sealing is maybe something to consider, but to be honest, you know, it wasn't that bad. You know, I may exaggerate it a bit. I did have a few issues, and it's not perfect, but it's far from what you would get, you know, from a cheap lens. So yeah, that is pretty much, you know, pretty much what I wanted to cover. So let me show you a few pictures, and then back at the studio, and then we'll take it from there. Cheers.